Welcome back to Gamers8, ladies and gentlemen. As if round one wasn't good enough, round two looks like an absolute belter. We're back at the desk here to talk about our next matches coming up. And just across the board, I was surprised that all of these matches looked fantastic. Serral Hero, Cure, Maru, Solar, Clem, Classic Beyond. The list goes on. The list goes on here. Joined by Artosis and Tasteless to start talking about our next match. And man, some great StarCraft already.
Some crazy great games here. I mean, we just got done with that Wild series back there. It's very cool to see that the Classic is showing a real range of play, and yeah, I think it's going to be a very fierce and tough tournament.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Maybe with Protoss doing all right.
Maybe.
For once. We'll see how it goes. It's been a bit of a harder time, I suppose, Artosis. But let's talk about the match that is coming up here, of course. We've got HeroMarine going up against Creator. Both 0-1 at the moment when it comes to the tournament as a whole. You don't want to be going down 0-2. That's pretty obvious, Artosis. But it's a good matchup regardless.
Yeah, I actually think that this is a pretty even matchup, to be honest. You know, I was talking to Roddy, and of course he took the side of HeroMarine being advantaged here, but Creator is playing very well today. He should have had Serral in that match, and I think that he can look at that and hopefully not get too emotional. It's been long enough. Maybe he's been able to cool down. We know Creator is a highly emotional player. So I think as long as he's cool, calm, and collected going into this, I think he has a reasonable shot of taking down HeroMarine.
Yeah, I think it's not unreasonable, to be perfectly honest. I mean, Nick, to justify exactly what Artosis just said, as he says, Serral looked extremely vulnerable against Creator. It's a very different matchup, of course, but we see that, you know, HeroMarine has obviously come off the back of a loss against Hero, 2-1 in the previous round. Yeah,
the two heroes fought, and the Marine ended up losing back there. Both these guys are in definitely a tough position. You know, with Hero, the player himself, he's had a little bit of a rough whole year here. I think a lot of people in 2023 kind of expected him to do very well. So the fact that we've got these two players, HeroMarine and Creator, going up against each other, there's certainly a lot at stake. Yeah, definitely so, definitely. Artosis, when you look at this and how it's working out, we do have our map vetoes as well. As I take a look, it's going to be Dragonsdale, Grassfan, and Ancient Cistern if we need it. Any thoughts?
No, not specifically on these. Like, that's kind of how you would expect it to end up going.
Sure.
You know, I like having Grassfan as the second map, to be perfectly honest. I think that's the perfect place for it, to kind of make sure that we get one really cool macro game going on. But yeah, I think as long as it comes down to the mentality of Creator more than anything else in this situation, like I was talking about before, right? Yeah. I feel like HeroMarine is just as steady as you can get. He's always going to put out that very high quality game. But for Creator, with that emotional up and down, maybe he's going to play great, and maybe he's going to fall flat in his face.
Maybe. I mean, HeroMarine, of course, has risen to great heights. We saw him go far in things like an Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, a little bit ago, of course, but he's always kind of in that mix when it comes to some of the best Europeans.
I do think that HeroMarine's always had a good mentality. He's had a very good head on his shoulders. He's steadily improving. He does seem to enjoy himself at these events, even when he's in a pretty bad position. And to what you were saying, Artosis, I couldn't agree more. I mean, as a guy we've casted so many times in the GSL, sometimes Creator looks phenomenal, and he plays in ways that we haven't seen the other players play. He also shows a really huge range of different styles. You can tell he's really put the work in. But he does have these psychological blocks. He has these moments where if he feels like he should have won a game, and you know, we talked about the game with Serral, it did look like he might have been able to take Serral out, which would have been the big blow-up upset of the entire start of the tournament, right? So the question is going to be, is he going to be tilted? Can he take this kind of negative energy and use it to help him? I don't know. He's a player that tilts very easily. If he's able to, you know, win the first couple games, he can usually streak it together. But I think game one's going to be very telling for exactly where Creator's at. Yeah, I think considering his previous series, considering how far he took Serral to the brink, I think as much as it's a loss, it probably still gives him confidence here, Dan.
I would definitely agree, because there's no way that you can look at that series and think that, oh, Serral always wins that. Absolutely not. Like, Creator, he should have won it, in my opinion. Like, he was definitely ahead in game 3, had the right build, had the right situation. It didn't work out. Okay, let's go ahead. That's generally considered the best player in the world. So, okay, let's chill. We almost just beat the best player in the world, 2-1. Go into this next match, keep yourself calm. I think it's going to be a great match, though.
I really like the level that we're seeing so far here for Gamers8. You can see that everybody's bringing their A game to the table. It is now time to go over to the stage. Both of these players, 0-1 right now. You do not want to be going down 0-2.
We're heading into round 2 of the group stage, and there is a lot on the line here, Fancy.
في أشياء كثيرة الآن صارت on the line أعزائنا المشاهدين لأنه وصلنا للمرحلة الثانية من الجروب ستيج بعد نهاية المرحلة الأولى. واضح أن المرحلة الثانية بتكون أفضل وأفضل.
And we're starting with our players who are down a match, but these players are still so close to victory. You can't count anyone out yet.
Keep one thing in mind as well. HeroMarine didn't play on stage in the first stage, so things might be a little bit different in this one. ما ندري ايش اللي ممكن يصير اعزائنا المشاهدين. هيرومارين اول مره يشارك معنا في المسرح. كريتر شفناه ضد سيرال والنتيجه ما كانت من صالحه ابدا. So let's see what's going to happen for this one.
Absolutely. I think our players are ready. So we can bring our first one to the stage. Creator for Team Abydos. He's joined us on stage 01, but that loss was to Cyril, one of the best players in the world, and he managed to pick up a map from him.
ثاني ظهور له الكرياتر في المسرح زي ما احنا عارفين. في المباراة الأولى واجه سيرال الشخص المرشح بالفوز بالبطولة بالكامل، ومع كذا كاد انه يفوز عليه في المباراة، فإذا قدر يسويها ضد الأفضل في العالم ممكن يقدر يسويها ضد خصمه اللي راح نتعرف عليه الآن. خلونا نرحب فيه. من فريق ماوس هيرومارين. هيرومارين أول ظهور له في المسرح، لكن زي ما احنا عارفين في المرحلة الأولى من الجروب ستيج معنا في هذه البطولة بداية اليوم خسر مباراته في الباك ستيج، لكن كلهم خسرانين وكلهم طالعين من الخسارة، فجايين يعوضون لنا في المسرح على مباراتهم هذه.
HeroMarine making his stage debut after a tough loss to Hero. He's come out to prove something to the crowd. Can't wait to see what this match holds.
المباراة هذه بتكون مختلفة أعزائنا المشاهدين، لا ننسى كلهم كانوا أبطال عالم فترة جدا طويلة وكلهم أسماء جدا كبيرة، فخلونا نشوف شو ممكن يقدمونه، خصوصا إنه في آخر مرة شاهدنا هيرومارين معنا كان أداؤه جدا رهيب في الآيام كرافيتسا وكان في المركز الثالث. أكيد إنه راح يودينا شيء مرة كويس.
Gentlemen, join us at center stage to please shake hands.
بالتوفيق كل اللاعبين في هذه المباراة. أعزائنا المشاهدين الآن راح نرجع لكم على طول للاستوديو نتكلم أكثر وش اللي ممكن يصير في هذه المباراة، لأنه دخلنا في المرحلة الثانية من الجروب ستيج وأي شيء ممكن يحدث.
Bit of a throwback, yeah, to DreamHack Valencia, but let's send it off to the casters to see how this match goes down.
It is time for an awesome TVP between Mouse Sports, HeroMarine, and this man from Team NV Creator. I'm Roddy, with me is Benjamin, and we have the pleasure of bringing you guys this best of 3, a little bit of Big Gabriel TVP magic. It fell short in that opening series against Hero, but that was a very close, very competitive series. A lot of talk about how well Creator did against Cyril, and he absolutely did, but Big Gabe played an awfully close series to Hero, versus Hero, and I mean, was 1 or 2 fights away from actually getting a W there.
Yeah, actually a bit of a shame for both these players. They both went up against very, very respectable foes, right? Creator narrowly lost to Cyril. Actually kind of should have won that third game, but Cyril somehow pulled out of the bag. Maybe you could say Creator kind of danced around a little bit too much. And HeroMarine, yeah, 1-2 to Hero. That's once upon a time, he was absolutely the best pro wrestler in the world. So these two duking it out here. Life's on the line. Round 2 of the Swiss stage. And yeah, they're going to be looking at the other guy as if he's a doable opponent. But you have to realize that the other guy is very damn good on the other side of that stage.
I think they know it. They've run into each other as well earlier this year. Back then, Big Gabriel did get the best of Creator in an offline event. But I do feel that, especially when it comes down to these world-class Protoss players, that Creator absolutely belongs to, the more they play against a guy like HeroMarine, the more they will get familiar with his style, and perhaps the more that should help them. But this is a very big moment. Both players are 0-1, and the Swiss format is very simple. With 3 wins, you make it into the playoffs. With 3 losses, you are eliminated. Both players 0-1 right now. Let's see who goes 1-1, and let's see who drops to 0-2. In the bottom right side of Dragon Skills, that's going to be our opening map for this best of 3. We are looking at the main base of our German Terran player, the one and only Sports HeroMarine.
And spawning over in the top left, as our blue Protoss, representing Abydos, it is Creator. Always a pleasure, but I like what you say, because when you do look at HeroMarine's style, especially with how much he gets to play TVP, you do get to kind of pick it apart a little bit, realizing that, hey, he really loves a medevac going around this side of the map at this particular time, and, you know, became very popular for it. Every Terran in Europe, honestly, should have been looking at HeroMarine's play in this matchup and being like, well, how does he do it? Like, that's the player that I have to watch, because he's not necessarily out-macroing, out-skilling people here, there, and everywhere. He's just damn good at knowing the formula and how to really take on the match. But Creator, he's a smart cookie, Kev. He can absolutely look at that and be like, okay, these are the things I need to look out for.
I mean, HeroMarine, or Big Gabriel as we like to call him in the StarCraft 2 scene, is just very deadly in this matchup. Big Gabe is the absolute king of very little happening, getting one little victory, whether that's a couple of workers or catching one of the Stargate units if the Protoss opens up with a Stargate, and he follows it up with a sort of 2-base push, and the game just ends. He's the very best at that. And I think sometimes it's very difficult when you hop into a series. It's like, we favor this guy or that guy. I think in this series, even though these two are going to be incredibly evenly matched, I think any game that ends under minute 12, that's probably very good for Gabe. Any game that goes past the 15-minute mark, that's probably going to be very good for Creator. I think HeroMarine knows it. He can absolutely get the best of his Protoss opponent here, but he's going to have to do it somewhat early, either in the mid-game or in the very early stages of the late game. But I don't think Gabe ever wants to find himself in a 5-base versus 5-base scenario with DTs blinking all over the place, because that's where Creator is absolutely going to shine. Like Big Gabe, I think the earlier the pushes happen, the better it will be. And we can actually talk a little bit about these openings, because I'm a tiny bit surprised to see that HeroMarine open up with the double refinery just to get into that factory as quickly as possible. So we're opening up with some sort of a Reaper Hellion opening, and we'll take it from here. This is obviously not ultra committed, but you do want to get a little something for this as the Terran player.
You might want to, but one build that you can absolutely hope for damage being done is against a Stalker Sentry opening. This is not entirely normal. Creator obviously wants to utilize that hallucination later on from that Sentry, but will he get to do it? Because immediately HeroMarine's going to be coming in here, and this, it's a very safe opening, so I like the fact he started off with it, but here he's at the front door, and maybe he should have just run over to the probe save, but he's going to choose to fight this Stalker head on, and so far, I think Creator's handling this about as good as he can.
Well, we're not done yet, right? Because the Stalker is very low in HP. That Stalker should fall. There is a hallucinated Phoenix. The Stalker falls. I feel like the Sentry should at the bare minimum go down as well. The Reaper is trying to get a few more shots up. Big Gabe. Honestly, it almost felt that he was a bit indecisive there, and that's not really the Gabe that we know. I think it would have been a lot easier to just completely ignore that Stalker. You can go for the Sentry if you'd like that, and then you go for some probes. And I think at the bare minimum, you're gonna get the Sentry and 4 probes, which would have been a little bit better than how it currently went. But it almost felt that for HeroMarine, this was one of these scenarios where, like, this is too good to be true. It cannot only be this. I want to make sure I don't lose all my units, because I want to make sure I maintain a tiny bit of map presence.
You're totally right, though. Going for that Sentry could have been an absolute play, and it felt like Creator was worried about that too. Popped that hallucination as soon as he hit 75 energy there, so he was worried about that Sentry dying for no use whatsoever, but actually managed to get the scout off afterwards as well. So far, you could give Creator a slight little edge here, because he didn't take any economic damage whatsoever.
No, losing a single Stalker for all of that and knowing that your opponent has expanded later is completely fine. This follow-up, I also don't think is going to be all that successful. Maybe a cancel on the Nexus. I think that's about as much as HeroMarine can hope for, but we are on the clock here. What is very important to keep in mind is that the moment Blink is done in the top left side on a production tab, we can see that it's closing in on finishing up. This medevac could be in a bit of a pickle. HeroMarine does not feel like he can get a Nexus. He needs to get out of there ASAP, because the moment Blink is done, a few Marines, a Cyclone, and a medevac, they don't stand a chance.
What HeroMarine's doing back at home, though, is very nice, right? Like, it's a Raven opening, which Ravens are always useful. They can harass the mineral lines, they can drop some auto turrets in the fight. Hey, they can even really make short work of Colossus, but the way that Creator's doing this is so safe, so clean as well. He's not skipping tech anywhere, shape and form, but the tank push that's going to come out, because this isn't waiting for like 2 medevacs and stuff. This is a lot of units very quickly.
The one thing that was a bit less clean after that pylon got cancelled is that Creator was supply blocked for a decent amount of time at 62 out of 62, so he wasn't able to improve his army. And I'm actually kind of shocked to not see Charge or a Robo-Bay. It feels that one of these two things should have been absolutely mandatory as soon as Blink is done. Creator waited a long time, so maybe he just wants to get a couple of extra units. We are even rallying the Immortal to the other side of the map, which I find is very confusing, but maybe Creator thinks he can just... This is such a bizarre attack, but he's going to go for it. He's going to try to absorb some of the tank shots. He's going to blink in. He will snipe one of the tanks. This attack is so wild and crazy that HeroMarine clearly did not expect it either. But in the end, I don't think that was that bad for Gabe. Sure, he lost the tank, but 4 Stalkers. That's it. Well, 3 Stalkers, right? But that's still a decent amount of Stalkers.
Honestly, that's a trade I'd take any day of the week. And you know Creator, like, he was really hoping for a lot more than that, but he went in so damn blind. Like, that's the kind of play that Bunny would be making if he played Protoss, you know, the no scan running kind of thing. But yeah, he definitely hoped for more than that. And if HeroMarine was doing something where he's continually making tanks, you could be like, okay, it's nice to make short work of that, keep the count low, but he's not doing that at all. He's totally transitioned into 3 barracks, getting the Widow Mines out, getting all those nice juicy upgrades with the Sim, Combat Shield +1 as well. Creator's just made his life a little bit tougher.
And then the tank is not all that important anymore, right? Tanks are amazing against Colossus play, but it's not that important against a lot of Zealots, and that's clearly what Creator is heading into. Creator is going to try to shave off a few more units at the bottom side of the map, but at the same time he needs to defend this, and he can thank the Lord that he built a battery here earlier, because honestly that would have been a very awkward defense. Otherwise, we are going to activate battery overcharge, and now HeroMarine needs to make sure that he can get these units out of here. It seems like he's going to lose all of them. So he is making it to the other side of the map, but this means that this army in the center of HeroMarine really needs to get some work done. Creator still has units at the bottom side of the map. This is just chaos. It's absolute chaos between these two. HeroMarine looks at an army, he sizes it up, and he says, I'm a whole lot bigger than that army. And with a typical big game stim just straight into the natural, he's going for the kill here, man.
He really is, and look at that pylon, Kev. That is so damn juicy there. Depowering 2 gateways. That Robo is very, very vulnerable there. They're both killing each other from the inside out, but the army that HeroMarine's going to have left over here is definitely a good one, but these Widow Mines, will they get juicy shot? Lovely dodge there. Every unit matters in a game like this.
Yep, they say never base trade in Terran, but maybe placing a Protoss with battery overcharge recall is also not all that wise anymore in this day and age. Creator tried to save a couple of these production facilities or that natural nexus. That's not going to work, but HeroMarine is completely running out of SCVs. It doesn't seem that he's ever going to be able to clean up all the Zealots and all the Stalkers inside of his main. So that army that Big Gabe has on the other side of the map, that's the army that needs him to win the game. That Widow Mine has potential here. By the way, battery overcharge would be massive. He is going to battery overcharge, and HeroMarine is not targeting the battery, and that's good enough for Creator to pick up the 1-0 lead here. Keeping those Stalkers at the bottom side of the map while a Big Game is stimming towards your half of the map. A crazy wild judgment call to make, but the right one in the end.
Yeah, like normally, you know, that army that first moved out across the map with the Immortal and the Stalkers, I was like, okay, that's surely just to slow down a push, right? And then he moved up the ramp and did what he did, but then keeping him on that side of the map, just doing the little shaving off of the army that he did, very smart play. And then just be like, okay, that army moved out, maybe I can hold it, but I can at least really gut you from the inside. Very cool play by Creator, not your normal TVP. And
chaos, man, that felt like chaos.
Pure chaos, and that was a game that was under 10 minutes, and you saw HeroMarine's plan, but Creator just played very well against it.
I bet Big Gabe is definitely regretting losing that one matter of fact in the main base, because a few extra units there, it really could have made the difference. And maybe like in a crazy hectic scenario like that, a better play, as we're going to take another look at that crazy first weird attack by Creator at minute 6, just rallies an Immortal to the other side of the map, links in there. Didn't necessarily get the best trade, but what he did accomplish with that is that HeroMarine stayed at home a little bit longer, and he could enjoy that 3-base economy on his side of the map.
Yeah, even at this point, like the minerals started stacking up a lot for Creator, and HeroMarine has literally nothing mine at this point. I see some like Desperation Mules shop at this moment, but that was just really good. And HeroMarine, this Immortal over here, look, just focus firing these Marauders as well. Very nice play out of Creator. And honestly, yeah, a little bit of a smile there, like, yeah, you had me that game. You played well, mate. I like the respect being shown there.
Perhaps the pickup and flying into the third base, not necessarily the best call there. Would have maybe been better to just go straight for the main, because that's obviously where all the pylons are that are powering the last bit of Protoss production. Like, if Creator is clearly not defending at home, and he really wasn't, right? He had a couple units there, but they stood no match against that big army of Big Game. Maybe as soon as you're in the natural, you unpower some stuff there, you go into the main base, because if you unpower a few more gates there, all those warp pins in your main don't happen, and maybe that could have been the key to victory for Gabe.
Yeah, really, because it really comes down to just a few units at that point, right? Like, neither one of you are really able to produce how you want to, but we're going to get on to the second map here. It is going to be Gressvan, and spawning over in the top left as the red Terran, it is HeroMarine.
In the bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of our Korean Protoss, who's honestly just playing some damn sexy StarCraft today. A nail-biting series against Serral and a 1-0 lead after a short but very chaotic game versus the German Terran. It's Abydos, Creator.
Nice to see him, like, still putting up a really good fight, right? Like, because a loss against Serral, you can't let that bring you down, but we do know that Creator is very emotional and such, but he's just showcasing some very good play today. Like, I do know Creator is a very good standard Protoss player, but all it takes is like a few extra percentage points here, there, and everywhere just to round it all up, and so far it's absolutely paying off in dividends for him.
Yeah. And it does feel that even though HeroMarine is still an expert in this matchup, it's a little bit less deadly than it was, give or take, a year ago. A few more losses are starting to sneak in there. A couple of the European Protosses seem to get a better idea of how HeroMarine likes to approach this matchup as well. And I don't think that HeroMarine has obvious weaknesses in this matchup, but obviously the more you play against him, the more you get to see of it, the more that Protoss players can find a way to deal with some of those deadly timings that he found so much success with in the past. And Creator obviously is not just a StarCraft 2 player, he's a StarCraft 2 fan as well, and he's gonna do his homework coming into a tournament like this, and it won't take you very long to look up a couple of recent TVPs of Gabe, right? You will find plenty of HeroMarine versus MaxRax, HeroMarine versus Showtime, and those are all games that Creator can learn a lot from. Well, I think for HeroMarine, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find the same amount of material of Creator. Obviously, you're going to find some Creator PvT replays, but nowhere near the same amount as Big Gabe his TVP.
Yeah, this game's a little bit unusual here. Neither player is actually directly scouted across the map. And you see both of them just being like, all right, what's going up here? Scouting around the base just to make sure no proxy shenanigans are going on. So already, they're both playing a different style here and both being a bit like, well, what's actually going on? So both as blind as you can be. HeroMarine is going for that 2 Reaper single Hellion again. The double gas build just became so standard in this matchup. It was when all the crazy proxy gateways were coming out from Protoss, and this really put a spanner in the works for them. It's a very safe opening.
It is very safe, and it's always going to give you a bit of a scout as a Terran, but the one thing I'm a bit concerned of for Big Gabe is that I feel like in the last game there was some untapped potential with that opening. He went for the Stalker, in the end he got the Stalker, but getting the Sentry and a few probes would have just been a lot more impactful than a single Stalker. Creator probably knows as well that he dodged the tiny bullet there, so he's actually going to take this a lot more serious here in the second game, and I highly doubt that HeroMarine is going to find the same amount of success or any success at all, and that could be a bit problematic for the German.
I mean, it's incredibly hard to jump up into the main, isn't it, on this map, or get much scouting information. And with the shield battery already up, yeah, this isn't going to get done what he hoped for. But those units still on the map. You can see when a third comes down, you can maybe snipe the probe as it is to happen. 2 extra gateways on the way here. Creator's going for that very solid, almost bulletproof opening, you could call it. Like, there's no way to really shut down a Protoss doing this, but it's about what he chooses to do afterwards. He can do a third base, or he can be very aggressive with this.
I'm once more a bit concerned about that medevac that's going to head out. Obviously, HeroMarine knows that as soon as Blink is done, it's going to be very tricky as a Terran to keep these units safe. Is there potential for the German Terran to find something here? Well, maybe you can get a cancel, maybe you find a stray probe or a single Stalker that's a bit too far off. That's excellent movement on the Hellion there, but it feels that he missed it. He definitely caught a glimpse of it, but perhaps not paying attention. Is going to go forward. The lock-on should guarantee HeroMarine 1 Stalker kill here. The second Stalker is going to take a lot of damage as well. One more Stalker is actually alienated from the natural. If Creator loses 2 Stalkers early on, then this opening is going to turn into a success after all. But every second that goes by right now without a unit falling is definitely going to favor Creator.
Popping the shield battery overcharge, that means less chrono boost to get the build going. And remember, no third Nexus on the way right now. Like, this is not the game that Creator want to be playing. And that Stalker, I feel that Stalker's super lucky here, Kev, because I think HeroMarine maybe could have just hunted that bad boy down with that Cyclone.
Yeah. I think he wanted one of the other Stalkers in the natural, but the save and micro was just good on Creator side, right? Sometimes you go for something as a StarCraft 2 player and not necessarily the right or wrong call. It's just that Creator handled that pressure well, micro the units back towards the battery. But HeroMarine also did a great job in sticking around for about as long as he could stay around until Blink would kick in, and then you just go home again, because losing a medevac that early is just a bit too much in this matchup.
It's too much, yeah. And like having those extra units alive, like obviously he sacrificed the Reaper and the Heli in the last game, having that little bit of extra fodder really allowed him to fight with that Cyclone and Marine, which he wasn't able to do the previous game. Creator's setup here is very safe, by the way. Shield battery in main, shield battery in natural. Like the shield battery in the main, I'm not even sure if that was necessary, but would be good against the drops and what have you.
I think he was worried about the Reaper Heli and drive-by, perhaps. And don't forget, last game, that shield battery in his main base did absolutely save him. Otherwise, those Marines and the Cyclone would have been able to find a lot more damage. That would have been a lot harder to clean up, and then maybe something else would have gone wrong elsewhere on the map. So that battery in the main was a low-key MVP in Game 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long-term investment, isn't it, against Gabe? Like, honestly, the amount of drop damage that he's done against Protosses in the past has been absolutely huge, and it's really one of his go-tos is just to send one medevac around the map into the main or natural, and here he's getting a nice little bit of cheeky scout going on. Blink is not done right. In fact, no, it must be done at this point.
Hey, open up with
Mate,
Blink.
I'm having a mare over here, all right? But, okay, so Blink is obviously done. Charge on the way. 5 more gateways as well.
It's a little bit of a similar setup for Creator in that previous game, and it's not necessarily, in theory, the best way to play Protoss here, because your army is not supposed to skill very well. But what it does do is that it thrives in chaos. The Zealots are probably the best unit in the game if you don't look at them, but you know they're battling and they're not fighting in the worst choke point ever. The Zealots are amazing. And if Creator just knows that HeroMarine likes to be hyper-aggressive in the first 10 minutes of a TVP and will always move out with pretty much every single unit, yeah, a Warp Prism early on with a couple Zealots and a Warp into the main base has a lot of potential, because that's going to pretty much put HeroMarine all in, and then that's going to force him to fight in range of batteries. That fourth Nexus, though, I think that's a bit too much.
Kevin, this Warp Prism flying into a turret and Cyclone, if that gets shut down right here, Creator has to be so damn fast. Okay, he was fast enough to get away. And that is huge. If that died, this push from HeroMarine is just go, go, go all the way. So that is a big deal.
We're warping in 5 Zealots somewhere on the side of Creator. I'd really love to see where that is. Okay, all the way in the top left side, it feels that Creator says, I cannot use these units right now in his main base. As HeroMarine makes it up this ramp, sees there is no Nexus here, might be thinking of going into the main base. I find it crazy that Creator is already going up to 4 bases before HeroMarine even went up to 3. As we do have the tanks, he's temporarily getting picked up, but he unloads them. Cybernetic score is in a bit of a pickle, will most likely fall. That gateway is going to fall. I don't think Creator really needs to fight here, right? This is uncomfortable, unpleasant, but you kind of just have to accept the fact that those buildings are going to fall, and you don't want to take a bad fight running into tanks and Widowmines.
No, you don't. And look at that blue flock on the map. And HeroMarine, he wanted to get on out of there, realizing, like, have I outstayed my welcome here? And maybe he has. That is a lot of HeroMarine here. Big blink onto the tanks, takes out those. The Raven energy all utilized. And honestly, Creator, he's on 4 base behind this, Kev. Like, this isn't bad. Like, he just needed to survive. He has taken damage, make no mistake about that, but he's alive.
Definitely was not bad, but could have maybe been a bit better, right? I felt that the Zealots were a little ahead of the rest of the party, but in the end, he just had an overwhelming amount of units. That, however, wasn't the entire army of Gabe. Gabe now has rallied the additional reinforcements to the other side of the map, and this is where Protoss sometimes is vulnerable. They don't have all the upgrades yet. They're working on that second robotics facility and the Robo Bay. The army of Creator is all over the place, and it's super Zealot heavy, which is not going to have a great time against Widowmines.
No, it isn't. I mean, a little flank here, but it's not enough. And oh my goodness, these Widowmine shots are absolutely humongous. The Raven does eventually fall, but it's done its job in this game. Shield battery overcharge used very early as well. And HeroMarine, he's just dancing on the edge, takes out the Warp Prism as well. Beautiful micro on both sides, but HeroMarine feels like he's getting a good edge in this fight.
The kiting is good, but Gabe does need a bit more, right? because he knows that Trader is on 4 bases and he knows that the 3rd base is late. Trader's army right now, it's a lot of units, but not the best units, not units that have a whole lot of micro potential. If HeroMarine slows down for a minute, this Protoss army is going to be a lot more tacked up, well diversed, and it's just going to trade a whole lot better, especially against the Widow Mines. Creator is incredibly Zealot heavy, so it really feels that it all comes down to a couple of well-placed Widow Mines, and we cannot forget there is just way more bio, way more firepower on the side of Gabe, but those Colossus are on the clock, and it won't take a whole lot longer before they're out.
Oh, these Widow Mines are separating the army here. The Stalkers are on the backside, but they're fighting against pure Marauder here, and remember, this is very good upgraded bio. He's even getting +2 behind this. Look at this army, this positioning as well. He has to be careful about the friendly fire, and it's kind of juicy, but honestly, these Widow Mines have done a good job, and GG tied up in this series. That was a much different game from the German.
Just great micro on the side of HeroMarine. Excellent job at guiding. Great Widow Mine connections as well, and Gabe would be the very first to tell us that that was manual targeting, by the way. Like, I was like, I know it, Gabe. We all know it. We looked at that fight, right, where HeroMarine sieged up the tanks, he took out the Cybercore and the gateway. We saw Creator clean that up, and we kind of looked at each other and like, well, he gets the job done. It wasn't the prettiest cleanup. I actually think that really hurt Creator, because he just lost a few more units there than he was supposed to. I think HeroMarine did a 10 out of 10 job in realizing when it was time to get out of there, did not lose a single one of those full medevacts, and that army that was already out on the map, it synced up with all the reinforcements that were waiting at home, ready to receive a Zealot run by or a War Prison play, right, that would have gone into the main base, and all of a sudden you're looking at 80-90 supply of bio, and pure gateway units without any armor upgrades are just going to have a very, very difficult time finding excellent trades there.
Yeah, it felt like Creator thought, okay, I'm taking my 4th base very, very quickly here against like a 2 base coming up to 3 base Terran. But I think that might have been like a bit overzealous by him, right? Like if he just held that fight, but also just put a few more minerals in units instead early on, maybe it would have worked out far better against the build of HeroMarine, because here, that 4th base already being done while this push was happening. That's crazy, but yeah, you're right. These Zealots ran in way too early.
Yep, and they ate some very big shots. The other turret placement, by the way, excellent. And I was worried that that one medevac was going to get picked up on the side of Gabe, but that did not happen, because the army supplies were somewhat close before that fight. It was like 80 against 70, but after that it was all said and done, and these armies synced up again. We're looking at 90+ supply of Gabe, and on Creator side, it just takes a little while before that double Robo and the Robo Bay and that 4th base is truly paying off. And the last thing you want to do on the Protoss is make more and more and more Zealots, because you feel like you need them to survive, but ideally you want to make a few different units.
Yeah, there was one thing you said as well. It's like if HeroMarine gives him like a minute, this Protoss army would be scary, and Creator needed time so badly. But HeroMarine, the one thing he didn't want to give him was time. Like he was just in his face, and he microed really damn good, Kev. Like if he was manually targeting with those Widow Mines, which he would absolutely tell us that he was, they were very good shots. And his army, honestly, I was very scared for taking too much friendly fire, but he was very good about like just moving around and stuff. And normally, you know, HeroMarine is somebody that does have it all, but he microed very well that game.
For the second time today, this man finds himself all tied up with a Korean Protoss. Will he be able to get the W in the top right side of Ancient? We are looking at the main base of our German Terran representing Mal Sports over here at Gamers8. This is HeroMarine.
And spawning over in the bottom left-hand side, the blue Protoss, it is Abydos's Creator.
I was a bit surprised that after that first attempt of the War Prism trying to sneak into the main base, Creator just gave up on it altogether. That, like, of course there was a missile turret and there was a Cyclone on patrol, but that has never stopped Protoss players before from going for a Zealot drop into the main base or just sieging up at the 3rd base and then dropping those Zealots, warping in a few more, clicking those into the natural, because the Zealots, they will always shine as long as they have some surface area to fight. But if Gabe is out with an army on the map, it's so much harder for the Terran to micro properly at home against Zealots and micro your army offensively properly on the other side of the map. So just to see Creator try one time, and he's like, oh, missile turret Cyclone, never mind, I'm going to bring everything back. Was a bit surprising to me, and I think Gabe absolutely loved that.
I think so. Like, when I saw that warping of Zealots was at the top, and then he ran them home, like even running them to the natural just to be like, okay, what's here? Stopping the reinforcements on the map kind of thing. Like, I felt there was maybe a little bit of panic or impatience, but a totally different mindset from Creator that game, because the game before, he was like,
He was
hey,
crazy.
Stalk's on the other side of the map, let's freaking go. This game is like, ho, I better be a bit careful. So if he can take anything and going into game 3, it's like crazy Creator. That's the one that worked out.
3 games in a row, HeroMarine will go for the Reaper into the double refinery and quick factory as an opening here, which is, for me, a little bit noteworthy. Like, we know the Terran players love it, and it's not like the least economic opening of all time, but I'm surprised to not see him try a single Reaper expand or even a Marine expand with a quick bunker, but this must be what Big Gabe's plan is for maybe all the TVPs he's going to play throughout this event, which has definitely not always been the case. We've seen him have a long phase of just Reaper expand, sometimes even being a greedy boy and go from one Marine into a reactor, maybe a 3-Rex, right? He's not the biggest fan of 3 barracks as an opening against Protoss, but we've seen him do that as well, but this kind of seems to be his new bread and butter.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good build for a while, and while you are not as economic as you could be, maybe it just pays off by getting to slow down the Protoss a little bit with just putting a little bit of fear, and then the scouting's obviously really, really good as well. In this game, we see a very different opening from Creator. It's a Stargate.
It's very early battery in the main, eh? That's actually
super early, yeah.
Is he just rallying the first adapt to the other side of the map? Because I don't really understand why you would double that. Creator is going for the Zest approach over here, where he's like, all right, if I know my expand is quicker than yours and you kind of need to kill a couple workers, I'm going to make sure it's very difficult for you to kill a few workers, and I'm just going to go for double battery. That first adapt should absolutely, like, there's one more unit in the natural. One probe is going to take a bit of damage, but a single probe for a Reaper and a Hellion, I mean, that's a trade that Creator will take any day of the week. Maybe could have sent those probes back to mine a little bit quicker, but he gets all 3 units for a single probe. I mean, Creator is absolutely flying.
Absolutely. Like, the one saving grace for HeroMarine is he got to see the Stargate, right? So he knows he's up against air units, but that was a very good defense, because those Adepts, even though the Shades are really annoying and really quite quick, the Adepts themselves aren't. So being able to shut that down as well as he did, very nicely done.
It actually would be very annoying for HeroMarine right now if Creator decides to attack him with 3 Adepts and a Phoenix, because what does Gabe really have? He had 2 Marines there. There is a Widowmine on the left side in the main. That medevac is not going to do a whole lot. So if these 3 Adepts would just go for it and try to one-shot, but Creator is showing a lot of respect into HeroMarine. I really do think that was an opening there to be a bit aggressive, but it's almost, it feels very counter against everything that you believe in, when it's like, I just made 2 batteries at home, and am I really going to attack the Terran right now in his natural? Like, that doesn't make any sense in your brain. But actually, that would have been, I think, a great trade for Creator to go for.
It would, but look at these Phoenix. Like, they're diving across the map here. Will they see? No, it looks like they're just missing this army here, which is a little bit unfortunate for these Phoenix. They might get to pick up these 2 Marines here, but now he knows. He's got to know something's out on the map with the way those Marines were moving. So
and also the fact that there are no other units, right?
Yeah.
Now, if this Widowmine burrows in a scary spot, this could be very annoying. Creator wipes in the Nexus, had no idea about these units of HeroMarine being here. But now it's also going to be maybe a bit awkward for HeroMarine to eventually get these units home, because Phoenixes are very good in forcing units to stick around and fight a little bit longer than they would like to. It's not the most impressive Terran army ever. The Widowmine has potential, but I feel like the longer Gabe's going to stick around, the worse it will get for him, though.
Absolutely. The first Phoenix shot pretty decent on those units, and the Phoenix, the focus fire is very good from Gabe, but this Terran army does not stand a chance against this, and he tried to get the pick up there, but maybe the Cyclone gets something done here. Taking out these Phoenix. This is actually, wow, nice crisis management by HeroMarine.
Yeah, making the best of a very dire situation, but he's not done yet, right? There is just a bigger and scarier Protoss army chasing the forces of HeroMarine at the moment, and these Vikings are in a bit of trouble. That Cyclone gets lifted. Okay, maybe that lift was a little bit overly ambitious, as the Stalkers had a hard time catching up with the rest of the army, but Creator is still chasing this army down. Can he get a few more shots? He gets the medevac with some precious cargo inside of it as well. And now there is a high HP Immortal here that kind of wants to have a bit of fun, but obviously these Cyclones can utilize that lock-on ability. Some great lock-ons there. Creator should probably just be very happy with what he got. Go home, rebuild some of these Phoenixes. He's always building crazy war prisons, by the way. Creator is so hyper-aggressive. I find that Raven, by the way, also a crazy decision by HeroMarine.
I think it is as well, and I mean, with the way that this series has been going, you have to always be worried about your opponent attacking you, and I mean, he hasn't showcased that he's willing to go into DTs or any crazy play like that, but Raven's just a nice choice, I feel, most of the time, but this isn't a normal game. Like, this has been fighting right from the get-go and
Gloves,
hasn't stopped.
gloves are off and we're just swinging. Like, that's kind of what it is. Creator just wants to attack right now with a bunch of unupgraded gateway units. He does have Phoenixes. He could lift that tank. He can also send... This is a lot of slow zealots. You just don't normally see this in high-level StarCraft, but Creator feels that his army of Gabe is too small. That Raven is going to be the first target and it falls. The tank gets lifted, the tank gets repaired, but in the end Creator gets the kill. There's a decent amount of firepower though in those Cyclones, and that tank on the high ground, a decent amount of SCVs are going down, but Creator needs more than just 5 SCVs, and I'm sure he knows that, because this is a pretty big investment on the side of the Protoss.
It certainly is. I mean, this Warp Prism will work wonders against these Cyclones right now, and 9 SCVs for your trouble, but also taking out that Raven. You said it was a bit of a ballsy choice, a questionable choice, and you were right. Against Phoenix, that's pretty much one of the last units you want to make, and maybe HeroMarine went a bit into autopilot there, but oh, he does have a third base at least.
These attacks are wild. We just don't normally see this. More unupgraded gateway units, no blink on the Stalkers, no charge on the Zealots, but Creator feels that he can still get favorable traits here while transitioning into Colossus on the other side of the map, but we don't have the extended thermal lens upgrade yet. The Forge is a little bit late. It seems that Creator in the end says, all right, this is about as much as I can get done. He goes home. Now he's still kind of stuck though with a lot of units. They will not scale very well.
A lot of units that suck right now for quite a while. Like, there's no Twilight Council on the map, right?
No.
No, so like, he can't upgrade these Zealots. He's got a lot of Zealots in his army. Once Stim is online and +1 and Combat Shield, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. He's got to rely so much on his Robo.
But one thing that's very important to keep in mind is that we are looking at this game from the observer point of view. We see everything. If you're HeroMarine, this is an ultra confusing game to read, right? Where at one point you just don't know, am I doing all right or am I actually in trouble? Like, I think that first wave really scared him. The second wave, perhaps he started feeling a bit better about it, because you can look at your workers in the game. You're like, oh, I still have over 50 SCVs. At this point, he's got 62. I guess I'm all right, but it's very hard for HeroMarine to feel exactly how far along the tech of Creator is on the other side of the map. We know that only now the Twilight goes down, only now that 4th Nexus has been planted, and +1 is the first upgrade on the side of the Korean Protoss. That's halfway done, but it's impossible for HeroMarine to know all these things.
Yeah, you can guarantee that he thinks Blink is maybe done or on the way along with Charge, and like, this is a total role reversal. Like, now it's the blue Protoss sharking around the map, trying to contain the Terran, and HeroMarine, like, this map is starting to feel extremely claustrophobic. He has to sit back, like, the medevacs are obviously very late with the Viking production into the Raven, and look, Creator, he's a crazy boy.
It's a wild moment to attack. It's before +1, it's before extended thermal lens. Sure, you've got 2 Colossi there, Creator, but that's an anti-timing if I've ever seen one. As he loses a few more of these expensive Phoenixes, he's still rebuilding Phoenix as well. I'd love to see how many Phoenix Creator has lost in this 10-minute
7 or so, it has to be. Yeah, 7 Phoenix. And I mean, he's still going, Kevin. I mean, that +1, it's still not online just yet. There's a few tanks slightly out of position, but honestly, HeroMarine, is he going to win this fight? I think he is, Kev. It's chaos on both sides. Look where that Warp Prism is. It is so deep behind enemy lines. These Colossus, though, they haven't been touched at all. Where is HeroMarine's supply? He's got a double drop on the other side of the map, but if he holds this, he's going to be he's trying to recall base. He's going to keep the Colossus alive. No! Where did he recall to? To the 3rd base. The other Colossus just stays alive with the shield barrier.
Oh my goodness. The overcharge that saves Creator. In the end, the Colossus does fall, but if that overcharge didn't keep that bad boy alive for as long as it did, and Gabe right now in a bit of panic. Where are the SCVs going? Where are the boys? The boys need to stay home. This has to be one of the wildest best of 3s that these two have played. We are making the craziest attacks, the weirdest timings. We're watching bizarre fights. That Warp Prism went so deep because it warped in a few Zealots on tanks that were a bit exposed. So that worked out well, but it was just chaos. It is once more absolute chaos. Creator is just non-stop attack. He's got 1 speed, 1 gear, and that's go. And Gabe is probably very confused. He's like, I'm the one who's supposed to be attacking you. That's the way we play this matchup. But Creator says, not today, my friend.
Not today at all. And these Phoenix, I mean, they are expensive, and they can't really get too much done, but what he's getting done so far, as long as he can keep getting some SCV kills, some scouting, knowing where his opponent is, HeroMarine does get to scout that there is a 4th base without the gases up and running. So that can definitely make you feel like, okay, I need to do something kind of soon here. Ghosts are on the go. The armory is late, but that's kind of purposeful. Getting the ghosts out with all that gas early is kind of the way you want to go. And HeroMarine's going into the Viking kind of combo here, and +1 air weapons. I mean, that's kind of cool with the Phoenix, honestly.
Yes. It's a shame that he lost so many so far, but I don't hate it, right? If you are rich, and Creator at this point is becoming kind of rich. He's on 75 workers, he's on 4 bases, got a Dark Shrine finishing up as well. HeroMarine on his side, the Armory finished up, so he is allowed to start +2, and that's what he's going to do immediately. I don't know if Gabe's going to embrace the all-out macro, though. I have a feeling that Gabe, his plan is probably get a bunch of Vikings, get a bunch of tanks, a few ghosts, wait for that +2 to finish up for the infantry units, and then try to end it, right, with a monstrous Terran army of 135 supply. While I think Creator is already slowly but steady dreaming about the 5-6 base scenario, I don't think that's what HeroMarine is aiming for.
I'll be honest, these Phoenix have a lot of work cut out for them because the ground army alone, like Big Gabe's army, ghosts, 5 tanks, a lot of Marauders. These Colossus feel so damn exposed right now against this army.
Yeah, but the Viking count is incredibly low, though. And if it's 2-3 Vikings at a time, it's the tanks. But we all know that tanks can be very vulnerable. Creator is probably already thinking of a way to flank these tanks down the road. We have a lot of gateways. The Zealot count is already at 10. Attacking into shield batteries is always going to be hard. This is just a madness. Best of 3. Gabriel should not fight in range of an overcharged battery. That's where it can go wrong. Creator's activating a very weird Guardian shield in the bottom right side. Thinks about going for this army, runs into this monstrous Terran force. HeroMarine's units are just running all over the place, trying to protect the tanks.
Oh my goodness, a Disruptor trying to get a good shot off in the midst of everything. The Marauders trying to focus down this Colossus. Creators having to run back home, but look at these Phoenix, Kev.
No end here.
Yeah, nothing shoots up anymore, really. There's a couple of Ghosts with a lot of work cut out for them, but oh my goodness, these Ghosts are really putting it out. Look at the supplies as well. They're pretty close here, but...
That's great for Creator, though. If he wipes in a few more Zealots, he should be able to get on top of this, because there was just not a whole lot of anti-air left. But in the end, the Phoenixes fly into the only units that can shoot up, and he actually lost a bunch of them, so HeroMarine once more takes a minor supply lead. But we cannot ignore the fact that HeroMarine is very, very committed. Has never built a Fort CC, hasn't built an SCV in days. This is the army that needs to win the game for our German Terran.
That is the last shield battery at this base where HeroMarine is sieging up from the low ground here, so that definitely spells a little bit of trouble. If I'm Creator, I'll start blowing down some shield batteries, but a few DTs being warped in here, maybe for an Archon. I mean, an Archon would definitely tank well against this, despite the EMPs.
I mean, there is a world where Creator can give up on this base, though. He could transfer these probes towards the top left. I don't think he needs to run into all the tanks that are sieged up, but he wants to go for it one more time. There are DTs in the mix as well. The Zealots are making their way through this bio army. It's going to be a close fight. Immortals now actually getting in range of the tanks, though, and that is massive for Creator as the Colossus stands strong. The Immortal Stalkers and DTs and Zealots are good enough to break through the lines of this Terran army. HeroMarine has dropped another starport at home, but it's going to take a little while before that comes into play. That was the victory that Creator was looking for, and it keeps the 4th base alive. And you look at the production tab, you look at those upgrades that are on the way. I mean, from here on out, it should only get better for Creator.
They are big upgrades. +2 armor, very soon to finish. +3 attack on the way. HeroMarine's in a position where he's having to fly over his natural orbital command to a 4th base here. And if we look at his main base as well, I dare say that's going to be very close to being mined out at this point in time as well. It is mined out. He is really, really clinging on here. And look, you said it, that production tab, a 5th Nexus. Creator's just absolutely feeling it right now.
A great hold. Couple great fights. Just madness in this game. I cannot believe some of these earlier attacks we saw with the slow Zealots, slow Stalkers, couple of Phoenixes. But in the end, what Creator did manage to do is keep HeroMarine at home. And that's not where Gabe ever wants to be. In the end, Gabe did move out, but he just found a few more Protoss units that he would like to. This is definitely turning into something, though, for Gabe. Creator does not seem to be too bothered by it, and he wants to deal more damage on the other side of the map. Got the best of HeroMarine in game 1 while he was attacking him. Gabe was attacking on his side of the map, and this time around, this Protoss army, these 4 Colossus, the Immortal, unless we somehow run out of anti-air, this should never go wrong, and it won't go wrong. Creator gets the dub. He improves to 1-1 here in the Swiss format, as our German Terran HeroMarine drops to 0-2, and is now 1 best of 3 away from being eliminated of this tournament.
It was not easy for Creator whatsoever. That was a real slugfest between them, and it felt like they were just both realizing how big this series is, right? They both came off a tough loss against very, very strong opponents, and honestly, the way that both of them playing, just very solid play.
This is one of these series where you want to go over it one more time. You're like, where do I start exactly? There were so many wild attacks. You think of game 1 as well, the 6-stalker, 1 immortal attack. Like, we're not familiar with that. This is like, it's almost like that meme, you know? It's like, I'm sorry, Creator, I have to apologize. I was not familiar with your game. Like, he showed us Protoss attacks that we haven't seen in a long time. But what I do think it really accomplished is that it disturbed the rhythm and the flow of the TVPs that the German Terran loves to play. And if that was the main goal, well, Creator absolutely smashed that one.
Absolutely, and I mean the whole series is about a story, isn't it? Anyhow, we get to hear from the winner himself over on stage.
What a back and forth there for Creator and HeroMarine. Very impressive victory in the end, though, Creator. It was a thrilling match to watch. What was it like to play?
대단한 경기였습니다. 어떤 소감을 세 번째 게임은 어떤 소감을 한마디 해주세요.
네. 일단 히어로마린 선수가 워낙 잘하는 선수여서 좀 걱정을 많이 했는데 그래도 생각보다 제 손이 좀 잘 움직여서 좀 운 좋게 이길 수 있었던 것 같습니다.
The player was a great player, but my hands was moving as fast as I wanted, so I won the game.
زي ما شفنا اعزائنا المشاهدين معنا كرييتر بعد فوزه في مباراه كانت باك اند فورث بينه وبين هيرومارين. السؤال الاول سالناه انه الجيم كان جدا حماسي اننا نتابع، بس كيف كان اللعب في هذا الجيم؟ كان الجواب على السؤال يقول انه صراحه كان اللاعب جدا جدا رهيب. هيرومارين طبعا معروف عالميا، زياده على كذا يقول انا كنت احرك يدي باسرع شيء اقدر عليه عشان اقدر افوز في المباراه، وبالاخير قدرت افوز 2-1.
Now, Creator, can you share with us what happened in Game 2 that cost you that victory?
게임 2에서 어떤 일이 있었는지 한번 말씀해 주실 수 있을까요?
일단 첫 번째로 제가 첫 번째 세트와 같은 빌드를 했는데 그 히어로마린 선수가 제 첫 번째 했던 그거를 좀 역으로 해서 좀 천천히 움직였기 때문에 제가 좀 말렸고 상대방이 좀 잘했다고 말하고 싶어요. 네.
So I did the build as I did the second build as the first build, but while I was doing that, the other player came and destroyed the first build. So I just wanted to say that the second player played a good game.
زي ما تشوفون اعزائنا المشاهدين سالنا اللاعب السؤال الثاني يتكلم عن المباراه الثانيه، كيف انت خسرت المباراه اصلا مع انه كان جدا فرصه انه هو يفوز جدا عاليه. يقول انه الاستراتيجيه حقتي كنت انا بقدر اسوي البيس حقي بشكل طبيعي، بعدين رحت البيس الثاني لكن فجاه اكتشفت انه هو قاعد يسوي رش علي على البيس الاول، وبالاخير بسبب الشيء هذا انا خسرت المباراه.
Well, Creator, you still have a long way to go till the end of the tournament, but your hands are moving the way you like, you said. So how do you feel about your odds?
이긴 황열 소감 부탁드립니다.
일단 이렇게 사우디까지 와서 이렇게 경기할 수 있는 게 굉장히 저한테는 영광이고 되게 뜻깊고 기쁜 일이거든요. 그래서 지금 굉장히 만족하고 있고, 그리고 앞으로 남은 경기 좀 집중해서 꼭 그 토너먼트까지 갈 수 있도록 좀 최선을 다하겠습니다.
I'm proud to be here in Saudi Arabia. I'm actually very proud of myself to be here. I will try my best to achieve the tournament and win.
زي ما تشوفون اعزائنا المشاهدين السؤال الثالث توجهناه للاعب انه تونا احنا في بدايه البطوله، عندك مشوار طويل لما توصل النهايه، فكيف تتوقع احتمالياتك انك تفوز البطوله بالكامل؟ يقول صراحه انا فخور جدا بتواجدي في السعوديه واني اشارك في هذه البطوله، وبحاول افضل ما عندي اني اقدر اخلصها لصالحي.
That's wonderful, and we look forward to your games, and we look forward to more from HeroMarine as well. An exciting match and thrilling games. Let's take a closer look from the analyst desk.
خلونا على طول اعزائنا المشاهدين نروح للاستوديو التحليلي نتكلم اكثر عن هذه المباراه، كيف كانت مره كلوز وهيرومارين كاد انه ياخذها لصالحه، لكن باخر لحظه كريتر كان هو الافضل، فعلى طول على الاستوديو نتكلم عن الموضوع.
That's right, Creator with a great win here against HeroMarine is able to keep himself going when it comes to the Swiss format. Joining me, I've got Tasteless as well as Artosis to talk about this one. And I mean, actually this was quite back and forth here, Nick.
It was a great series.
Yeah.
A lot of very explosive games. I really liked game 1. That was a real nail biter. We talked about the fact that Creator needed to be in a good mental state. Would he be shaken? Would he be a little bit rocky after his loss versus Cyril? Artosis mentioning that, you know, he should have maybe been able to beat Cyril.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
able to hang with him. And here we are. It was an excellent victory there from him.
Yeah, we take a look at the highlights here by STC, and we've got ourselves, again, kind of these base trade scenarios going down Artosis with Creator being victorious.
Yeah, that happens a lot of the time in games like these,
Yeah.
right? Like you just start killing the SCVs off, and then you have that recall that kind of saves your base. What are you really going to end up doing? But, you know, HeroMarine came back very strong in that game number 2. We saw some very good kiting going on, like these very charge lot heavy armies not quite able to break through. So, you know, after that game, though, I felt like it didn't feel like Creator played like particularly poorly.
Yeah.
So I knew game 3 was going to be a pretty strong one, and we definitely saw that, like Creator keeping his cool in that 3rd game.
Yeah.
Even though there were a couple attacks he did that were a little bit of an overextension.
Yeah, of course, the recall straight into some of the units here, and Supercharge trying to save a Colossus here at the very end, but it's not to be the case. I mean, the thing is that, I mean, Artosis gave rise to the idea that this was going to be an even series, and this last game really exemplified that, Nick, considering all these fights so back and forth, so close, so scrappy towards the end.
Yeah, there was a period where it looked like Creator was going to close it out, then he recalls back. It looks like he might actually, in fact, lose the game. HeroMarine seems to be a bit too committed to trying to end the game a couple minutes after that.
Yeah, yeah.
And through the virtues of patience, which is exactly what we needed to see here from, Creator, and keeping his cool, he comes back, he pushes through, and he's victorious, and therefore is still very much viable in this tournament.
Here are the results so far from round 2, as we do have an update on those results. With Showtime 2-0 against Spirit here, Dan. That means now Spirit, unfortunately for him, 0-2, really on his last legs here in the tournament.
Yeah, that's a tough one for him. I mean, he is one of the underdogs coming in as well. I think he's a great player, but hasn't really delivered on this level of a stage yet. So honestly, I'm not super surprised at it, despite the fact that I love his Terran play.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely clear that Spirit has leveled up throughout, you know, the past couple of years. We see him do, you know, have decent runs when it comes to Intel Extreme Masters and things like that, but on this stage, maybe Prep's getting the better of him compared to these guys that are more well-tuned on a stage like this.
Yeah, we're really getting to that phase of the tournament where we're going to start to cut out the weaker players.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's going to be an uphill fight for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of room left, right? So if you're going to pull it together, now's the time.
He's got to do something special. Well, thank you
Right.
very much, gentlemen. It is time to go to a break. When we return, we have more StarCraft on the way from Gamers8. Stay tuned.